Is going on, wrestling fantasize?
Love that music.
Welcome back. Oh, he loves the music. Welcome back to the show with Sean Mooney talking about the golden era of the WWF. That's right. Put the F back in. And today we're talking about the mega powers exploding at WrestleMania 5. Mooney, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. How about you, Steve?
I am doing
We've got
great.
a lot of stuff happening.
Oh boy, there's so much happening in the world. And before we even start, someone critiqued my outfit last time we did a podcast, so I made sure I did wear another hoodie.
Can't be as stylish as Mr. GQ here.
Of course.
Make sure I stay up with all the trends.
Of course. And if you want to stay up with the trends, also go to WrestleCon next week, WrestleMania week. Get to see Sean Mooney there. Get an autograph, get a picture, have a good time. And also tell them that you love this show. Leave a review because last week's podcast about Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan WrestleMania 8, boy, did people have opinions. And I bet people are going to have opinions this week because it's the soap opera from men. It's Macho Man, Miss Elizabeth, and Hulk Hogan. Whew. So where do we begin? Because I guess the question would be, how do you feel about using someone's real life relationship in a storyline and television?
Steve, man, where do you even begin with this? Because you talk about old school. This really is old school storytelling. And you had everything you could possibly want in a storyline. You've got, first of all, you've got emotions, you've got personal relationships, you've got jealousy, envy for other wrestlers' abilities. It had it all. And the greatest part about it was that there was this fine line between fiction and reality. How much was really true? How much was part of the story? Or was it all mixed together? And so that's why this thing works so well. It really did.
It's one of the best storylines ever in WrestleMania history. And the fact that it took an entire year to build to the mega powers exploding, it really shows you that at the time when they were putting together storylines, they had a beginning, a middle, and an end. And they had beats in between that got you along the way. In today's world, we got to get the match in the ring, get the storyline going. All right, it's over. What's next? This took over a year, actually, because really where it starts is one of my favorite storylines. The twin referees, Earl and Dave Hebner, screwing over Hulk Hogan. It's February 5th. It's 1988. It's the world titles on the line. It's Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant. Now, think about this. This is the WrestleMania 3 main event on television. Like, as you're watching this and you're noticing what's happening in the company, watching from beyond, are you shocked to think that they're putting pay-per-view matches on television, especially one that people credit for starting the boom of the WWF?
Yeah, that's a really good point. And even before we get into it, because you did mention it about how long this storyline was able to be set up. You don't see that today. That's something we could discuss at another time of why we don't see these deep, rich characters and stories anymore. But really, to think about it, that this whole timeline was all, pretty much a year that they were able to develop this and do it with a slow burn from the very beginning of it all. And when you started seeing things turn, and it might have just been one match and then a look from Randy and that, what's going on here? And that was it. And you're like, oh, I think, did you see that? So you were able to be able to do that. But getting back to what we were talking about here is, who would have thought that you would be able to, have a match like that, because we were so used to, Superstars and Wrestling Challenge were pretty much promotional tools. Most of everything we did were promotional tools. You never gave it away until you actually paid for it on pay-per-view, or you might see something at a house show, but they didn't give that stuff away. And this was before we had Raw, when everything really did change as far as that went, when we did get to see matches on a weekly basis. But this wasn't something that was done back then. They did see the ability, though, when you get on a network, you're talking millions and millions of fans out there that would tune in. And also remember, you're going to get a lot of people who maybe weren't professional wrestling fans, weren't necessarily interested, but they'd heard about the spectacle. They'd heard about what was going on. They're like, maybe I'll take a look. So when you do have that opportunity, you have to deliver. But this was another point in professional wrestling with the WWE as things began to change and how they presented the product.
It is one of the greatest storylines ever. Like, we'll have to do a whole podcast on this. I interviewed Earl Hebner about this, and he gave me some great tidbits and interesting thoughts and feelings about what happened to him this night. But the match twist, we've seen this before at WrestleMania 3, where when Hogan goes to body slam Andre lands on top of Hogan. 1, 2, he kicks out. Yeah. We saw that at WrestleMania 3. But here, when it happens, he kicks out. The referee still counts 3. So we technically have a new WWF champion in Andre the Giant. Yeah. But then Andre sells the world title to a new wrestler who just came in recently, the $1 Million Man. And this is the first time in wrestling, I believe, at least in the WWF, that you had someone sell a championship to another wrestler, which is that's a whole problem all with itself. But that is insane to think that they had twin referees, a good referee and an evil referee. Earl Hebner, Dave Hebner, twins. Now, you can only pull this trick off once. You know, it's like holding a grenade and blowing up and disappearing. Well, you can only do that trick once. Yeah. This is insane. What was the thought process after you saw this play out?
Well, that is another thing. And you said you could devote a whole podcast just talking about how they pulled that off. Because, to be able to have the twins, and they really did look very much like each other, and to be able to keep that kayfabe, as we say, because they didn't want this to get out and then ruin the whole bit. And the fact that they were able to pull that off, and just it was just so perfect the way they pulled it off. And then, you've got, like you said, the evil referee who gets involved, and then the big exposure and then the outcome of it. And then all the questioning of, like, how is this possible? This has got to be against the rules as far as, the formality and how a championship can be exchanged. You can't sell it. You can't be crowned a champion and then sell it to someone else. I mean, this isn't possible. So a lot to unpack in that, but just the whole scenario of that matchup, I thought was brilliant. I loved it. I loved the evil and the evil twin. It was just a great part of the story.
I'll never forget Hulk Hogan yelling to, like, how much did it cost? How much did the plastic surgery cost? $1 Million Man. Like, he was going berserker crazy on the microphone backstage about this whole situation. And when Hulk Hogan realizes there are 2 referees, the evil referee jumps out. Well, Earl Hebner gets picked up by Hulk Hogan, gorilla press, and he goes to throw him out of the ring over the top rope. And what's supposed to happen is Virgil, $1 Million Man, Andre catch him. What happens is Hogan throws him too far. He goes right over their heads, and he lands on concrete, breaking his ribs. His ribs are broken. So that has got to hurt. Earl Hebner told me that story, and it's insane to watch it, because you see, like, Virgil kind of trying to put his hands up a little bit. And he's like,
but also the, like, it's like watching. It's like the baseball clearing the fence. Oh, jeez!
Almost had it. I almost had you in the mitt.
Yeah, and also, and the crowd was in this gigantic ooh when he hits, because they're like, was that supposed to happen? But it is, and getting back to that with. No one knew that this twin existed. I mean, imagine pulling that off, that really nobody knew that there was another one, and that they were able to keep that secret for that long. And then the big reveal. And then, of course, we got used to seeing the Hebners in the ring after that. But it was every part about it. I really, that was one of my favorite matches ever, just because of the storytelling that was involved and the outrageousness of, how could he do that? How could he just, and sell out? So how could you just sell out like that?
And the WWF Championship. How dare you?
Yeah.
For years, though, you'd hear rumors online of people complaining about this as well. Because first off, amazing rating. It blows the roof off of all the ratings, Nielsen ratings, that is.
Yes.
But what happens is people start bringing up Hulk Hogan. Well, he when he loses championships, like he lose them sometimes. You know, we brought up him when he popped up on Warrior at WrestleMania 6 after he beat him. But this one is he didn't lose really. Like he got screwed over, but I guess he's a baby face. But then people start always going like, well, did he really want to lose? Did he not? But the fact is, 1984, 85-ish, he had the championship all the way up until 1988. That's one of those streaks that is impressive. And he loses, though. And the $1 Million Man technically is champion. If you go deep diving, he did defend the title at like 2 house shows. So he did have the title. On TV, that's never recognized. It was just President Jack Tunney did what he does. He stripped DiBiase of the championship and announced that there was going to be a tournament at WrestleMania 4. And that is one of those pay-per-views you either love or you hate. So, Mooney, do you love WrestleMania 4 or do you hate WrestleMania 4?
Well, that's a really good question because I thought that there were some good elements in it. But I think that it seemed more of an opportunity for them to start. I mean, I think they had already started the plan of how this was going to work out. And so, they start laying the groundwork and, with Miss Elizabeth and the Macho Man. So as far as matches and how that goes, but I think that as far as what we were going to see in the future, if you were paying attention, you started to see this start to develop.
Well, yeah, that part of it, yes, was Savage. And WrestleMania 4 is one of those moments where you notice that Savage and Miss Elizabeth, every time they come out, they have a new outfit on. They're matching. And to me, that is one of the highlights of Macho Man as a character and as a gimmick and as a professional, because he could have just worn orange tights with the stars on them, wore a robe, came to the ring. He knew he had to wrestle 4 times, so he wanted to present himself as the highest caliber version of himself he could. And he did. And to me, that's one of the most brilliant moves of the Macho Man, because he could have easily just worn one color all night long and did that. He decided, no. This is my night. I'm going to be crowned world champion. Like, I need to go out there and look the best I can. But also, I think we talked about it once before. WrestleMania 4, if you were lucky enough to have the VHS, it was so long. It came in not 1 VHS tape, but 2 VHS tapes. So it's, if you went to Blockbuster or something like that and they only had part 2, well, you were kind of screwed because you didn't get to see part 1 and see what happened. Though the one thing people critique about this event is the matches, because you had an opportunity for, like, say, Ricky Steamboat to fight Macho Man once again. They didn't do that route. We have a lot of DQ finishes, a lot of count-out finishes, a lot of outside in a finishes. But again, you're on a 16-match card.
Yeah,
that's
I know.
A lot of matches.
Look through that card, right? I mean, just look through that, and you're just like, and the 13th match was, like, what? So, like, it's and you mentioned it was just all these matches. It was countouts and DQs and not great matches.
No,
I mean, it certainly was not one of my favorite WrestleManias. I'll just put it that way. But I think like I said, at the same time, they were looking towards the future, and that's what those events were always set up for, in a sense, is to take you on. Okay, what's next? And at that point, like you said, 16 matches. What really came out of that? Besides the fact, like I said, what really stood out to me is they started laying the groundwork for the mega powers,
right? Which is a money maker,
really, for it to take off. Yeah. And
Savage defeats Butch Reed in the first round. Then he defeats Greg the Hammer Valentine in the second round. He defeats One Man Gang by disqualification in the third round. And in the finals, the man who technically was world champion for about 2 days loses. Macho Man defeats the $1 Million Man. But the biggest part of that finals, though, is Andre and Virgil are on the outside. There's
Right.
a lot of interference. Miss Elizabeth, she can't handle herself against Andre and Virgil. She needs backup. She goes backstage and she finds Hulk Hogan.
Oh,
And he's
well,
coming out and he doesn't
yeah.
know if he should come out. He's like, well, should I? Should I come out? And that is the beginning of it all with Macho Man down. Hogan brings in the steel chair, hits DiBiase in the back. Macho Man then pins DiBiase. We have a new world champion.
Yeah.
And that's the beginning. Like you said, like this is the groundwork of it. And in today's world's eyes, I bet they'd say, well, Savage doesn't look like a strong champion because technically he won because Hogan helped him. Well, technically, he had to win because you had outside interference. He needed some help. So
yeah. And also let's discuss that because you mentioned, Randy was a very confident person and felt he had worked hard enough and certainly had the talent and deserved to be not only the champion, but treated as one. Mm-hmm. And, it's been discussed many times as being, as they say, the face of the company. And you still have this period of time. And think back, I mean, we're talking when it was, before even 88, about that Vince is already thinking, how long does Hulkamania? How long can we sustain Hulkamania? And he's thinking about, okay, we have to find other talent that is going to be able to step in. We'll ride that horse as long as we possibly can, but we have to find new talent that's going to be able to take it. Randy believed he was that guy, and certainly I think he proved that he was in many ways beyond that. But they still needed the Hulkster. Hulkamania was still running wild, and it was always one of those things that you needed to bring this guy back. You needed him in there, and Hulk knew it. So I think as we talk about this, reality versus fiction, that was another element in this that Randy felt that he's always there, and then when there's a little bit of a dip, they think they got to have him there to save everything instead of letting me build it. And so I think that was another real element that was underlying throughout that entire storyline of the Mega Powers.
As we know, there's a real life rivalry between Hulk Hogan and Macho Man up until Macho Man passed away, unfortunately. And so the idea of, like you said, like Macho Man wants to prove himself. He's the world champion, but why is he like linked to Hulk Hogan? Do you feel like even Vince and Hogan were like, if we're going to build up someone else, we need to sprinkle Hulk Hogan dust all over them. Yeah. So if I do disappear, if I go do movies, then we have someone already set up in the scenario of like, oh, they can handle it because I gave them, you hold their hand up. Oh, look, this guy is the guy. Oh, okay. Well, Hogan said he's okay. So we should all believe him.
Yeah. And it's the same thing in, other sports entertainment. I mean, we've mentioned before with boxing, you've got to have a talent that raises up to the same level as that champion for it to work, for people to be interested in wanting to see them. And it's like any other situation like that, where you've got somebody coming up and you want to promote them. Well, what better way to do it than the guy that is on top says, yeah, he's the guy. So that was an important part of it. But at the same time, you've got somebody like Randy who felt that he'd already paid for it, paid his price in the ring to be the champion, and that he didn't need him to bump him up. But I think he also understood the two of them together was a tremendous combination for attracting people to want to see it. I mean, they really were Hulk was at this level too, but you put both of them together and it brought both of them up.
Now, do you feel like, maybe you even know, do you feel like this was all orchestrated to create WrestleMania 5? Like have Hogan lose to Andre, $1 Million Man, Macho pins $1 Million Man, and then we set up, the first ever SummerSlam and so on and so forth. Do you feel like that was already set in plan? The plans for WrestleMania 5 were already set up, or as time went on, they realized, oh, if we break these guys up, that'd be a really good storyline. Like where you land on that?
Oh, I think that was part of the scenario all along. I mean, otherwise, think about it. Where do you go with it? what would be the other storyline there? That Macho just gets bigger and bigger, and then Hulk goes away? No, it was. You're thinking about the drama in this, and everybody knew the situation that was between Elizabeth and Randy, which we should talk about too, of why that combination worked and why they were able to create this in the first place. And then because that was a huge part of this. And of course, Pat Patterson and Vince and Bruce. Bruce talks about the big books they had. Well, they were looking months and months and months ahead. And as we said, you have time to create this storyline that they could do over a period of time. And I think all along, to answer your question, is that was the ultimate situation where the two would clash over a woman and jealousy of a position in the company and being a champion. And another thing I wanted to mention too is, and I heard Bret Hart mention this before, that a lot of people think, and we talked about the meaning of a championship belt, and he talks about people maybe from the outside or whatever look like, what does that belt mean? I mean, really? I mean, they decide who's going to get it, whatever, but you earn that. They don't just give that out to somebody, and in order to have that strap, you have to have reached a certain level and mean that much to the company as far as making them money, making them popular, continuing the brand as it goes on and on. So there's a lot of pressure, and it means a lot to that champion. So to have it watered down in any sense, let's say with Randy thinking, well, they gave me the championship, but then I got to have this guy standing next to me to make it legit that I have it.
Right.
So there's all those elements in there. And as I mentioned, the biggest part of it was Randy and Liz.
True. And even let's start with that part right now, because WrestleMania 4, Macho Man doesn't ask Hogan for help. It's Miss Elizabeth who goes to get Hulk Hogan.
Theme through this.
Right. And that's the beginning of it all. Even when Macho wins the championship, he's looking around like, wait, what's going on? What's happening? Yeah. Oh, you got him? You got him? Oh, well, I am champion. And okay, well, that's all right. We'll celebrate together. I'm the champion. And that's the beginning of it all, of Macho Man and Liz are a couple on television. You don't see them doing many, not going on dates and backstage segments, but they are a couple. And the fact that she went to Hogan, that's the beginning of it all. Like that's
right. And then you're asking, and especially down the road, when Hulk agrees that he's going to go help Randy, who's he really helping here? Is he running to that ring because the damsel in distress is asking him, or is it him going, I got to stand up for this guy because he's on the right side, and these guys are going after him unjustly. Right. So that and you can have both, but where I'm going here, that it's already kind of thinking, okay, so did he do it because it was Liz who went and asked him?
Mm-hmm. Or did he do it because he wanted to help Macho Man defeat bad guys that he doesn't, who screwed him over technically? Like, what are you here for? But when the mega powers finally form, this has got to be a child's dream of seeing two of the greatest wrestlers at the time teaming up, forming in that handshake they do. They don't do like a real handshake.
Yeah.
It's like,
I know, it's like that slow.
Like, what do you? Should we do it? Let's do it.
And then the payoff, and then it's like that, and the pop, the crowd goes crazy. But let's get back though. I want to talk about this, the relationship with Randy from the very beginning. As we're talking about these elements, we're also talking about a true love story here, for better or worse. But anybody that was around those two knew that was a genuinely deep relationship between the two of them. And I don't have to, it's not going to be any big revelation to revelation, I should say, that Randy was very protective of Liz. He could be very jealous. Which was understandable. Nobody else had a spouse on the road with you. who was a very attractive person, and it was part of the gimmick too, that he was this very controlling, individual, and so he got a lot of heat for that. And another big point is that you couldn't get away with that today, with that having that kind of mistreatment at ringside. But a lot of people kind of were very intrigued by it, by thinking, is it just that they just have this deep love for each other and she is trying to help him become a better person, or what, that
Right.
you just don't really know him. He's this very sensitive person when we're not behind her, but he's got a very intense job and he's doing it for us. And so that all worked really well. And it was interesting to watch, because he was basically a heel with all that going on, that he was supposed to get all this heat for being that guy, get over here and what are you doing? And, did you look at him or anything like that? But he was one of those people that was getting a lot of people that liked him, that liked the character, the Macho Man, Randy Savage. So it was kind of a confusing situation there, because, you're not supposed to like a guy like that, but there was something about him, and you didn't really question whether or not he really was devoted and loved Miss Elizabeth.
Yeah,
so it was very complicated.
Well, my mind was blown a few years ago when I think it was a double night when they put out, I think it was A&E and Vice put out a Macho Man documentary. It was like back to back on the same night. And a lot of, I would use the term disturbing, was brought up of Macho Man locking Miss Elizabeth in rooms backstage because of the atmosphere that they're in. He's obviously protective. He's obviously worried. And then he's making sure that she's locked away so no other men can get involved, because we have heard over the years horror stories of people bring, say, their wives or their girlfriends around. And, well, you go to the ring, your girlfriend's back there with a bunch of men, and they're on the road away from their wives and girlfriends. Like, I'm not condoning anything he ever did, but I'm also saying I could see going crazy too, being with my beautiful wife backstage amongst 30 jacked, handsome dudes. Like, that night when I watched those documentaries, I was kind of shocked to hear about that. But again, different times, maybe different circumstances. But you're saying on television it's happening and people are cheering him. Backstage is happening too, but it's happening in a closed environment between these two relationships. But you knew Macho Man. Like, what was his devotion to Miss Elizabeth in real life?
No, it was absolutely. I have said many times that she was the love of his life. It's tragic the way that it ended, but I never questioned that. And then you hear this, that he locked her in rooms. I think that I never witnessed that he was locking her in a room, but probably wanted her to stay in their locker room area. They'd get a private area for them to be in there. But he certainly was very protective, very jealous about other people. Once I think I said that once you kind of got into that circle with him, where you realize you're not there to hit on his wife, or that wasn't your deal. That wasn't, you didn't really feel that way about him. But if it was like some strange guy or somebody he didn't know who had some reputation or something, and he saw the guy looking at him, he would get in the guy's face and tell him, mind your business or whatever, But as we mentioned when we started talking about this, that's why when this started happening, it was very understandable. It was easy to understand the storyline, and you could also totally understand why Hulk Hogan would be interested in this beautiful woman, and it was innocent, and he was, things happen, and they're close, and so maybe there is something going on. So it was as the fine line, as I mentioned, was blurred here, and so that's why it wasn't. You didn't see these, major forced things. As we said, it was just these subtle things, and it just kept building and building and building to the point where you could see Randy's ready to blow. He's getting sick of this, and all of it seems so innocent on Hulk's part. But come on, you're starting to think well, maybe there's something to it. So
there's lust in his eyes, as he
yeah.
says. But the first ever SummerSlam takes place August 29th, 1988, and it's the Mega Powers versus the Mega Bucks. That's a pretty cool thing. You got Hogan and Andre going at it one more time in a
Randy,
tag team match with $1 Million Man.
$1 Million
But
Man.
the special guest
IRS.
referee is Jesse the Body Ventura. And the controversy around this match is apparently Hogan and Macho Man have a secret weapon. And they've been promoting this for the whole build to this. They have a secret weapon. It turns out it's Miss Elizabeth, but she's supposed to be in a itsy bitsy teeny weeny yellow polka dot bikini. It's not a polka dot bikini. It's pretty much old lady underwear. And
old lady bloomers.
She takes off her skirt, and everyone is like, "Oh, oh my god!"
Like what?
Distracted. There's a woman wearing like undergarments that look like just a swimsuit. We're distracted. Oh, we get beat.
Yeah, but a lot of people were very let down by that.
Yeah, I bet $1 million.
And if you remember, Steve, there was a poster that was very provocative of her in a bathing suit that was, wasn't Sports Illustrated, but it was, and I know that there was, Randy was not happy with all that happening, and what he would oversee every little bit, and I was always surprised that thing was ever released. So it wasn't a big surprise because I was thinking there's no way he's going to let her be in a bikini out there, and didn't happen. Those large bloomers instead of the teeny weeny bikini. But it accomplished what they wanted to do. They did look. So
yeah, that's true. They did look.
This wasn't what they were expecting. Yeah.
But did you know if there actually was an itsy bitsy teeny weeny yellow polka dot bikini and Macho Man looked at it and was like, nope, this ain't happening.
Oh, I don't think it ever even got to that point, really.
Oh.
Yeah, I think that that was maybe, that there was some discussion, but at some point he's like, no, it's not going to happen. Not going to happen.
Okay.
So,
it's funny as I just pulled up on my side the picture of Miss Elizabeth. She's doing like a workout. She has like 2 dumbbells and she's wearing a pink sweater, but she's showing some leg.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine Macho Man being happy about that, though. You must have seen Macho Man though after and being like, how do you feel about your wife being out there, in this itsy bitsy teeny weeny, because like it's supposed to distract everyone. I get it, but that's your wife. So like you don't want this to be something that actually occurs, but we've been advertising it for a long time, like WrestleMania 8, where like we're gonna show nudes of Liz. Like we've come a long way from she'll be in a bikini to there's gonna be nudes of you. Like, do you know of Macho Man? Like, you don't think they actually ever had Miss Elizabeth in that small bikini? He was like, we're never doing this. I don't even know why you're talking about
it. Well, I'm sure that there were, Vince really wanted that to happen. He knew what kind of coverage that would get. And I'm sure there were, drawings or mock-ups or what they wanted to do. And they kept maybe making it a little, first it started like this and they kind of kept adding more material. I don't know. I'm sure there were discussions, but when it came down to it, Randy's said, no, we're not going to do that. And they had to find some compromise, and that's what ended up happening. But
this ending though has the breadcrumbs though, because it begins with when Hogan beats DiBiase, there's a hug moment. Like Hogan and Liz have an embrace. And
that
this
was
is where Macho Man's like
long. Yeah, held it to a little too long. Just
little flirtatious behavior here. Like
and as I said, again, we start raising that level of heat between Randy and the Hulkster. And that was certainly another moment. But as they, there was this slow burn to get to where they wanted to get. So and they had the time to do it.
But like, I wonder if you're observing all this as a bystander for yourself in general. Are you looking at this going, well, I know we're supposed to think that Randy's the bad guy in the situation in the end because he's going to beat up Hulk Hogan, which means he's the bad guy. But in reality, Hogan is flirting on television with Miss Elizabeth in front of Macho Man, who is the world champion. Hogan was the champion. He never lost it. Like, there's got to be a section of the audience watching this on Macho Man's side. Do you think Hogan was ever worried about the crowd actually turning on him? Or they were so detailed, like, well, don't linger too long or don't hug her too long, because then it looks like you're doing something bad.
Oh, I think that it was executed exactly the way they wanted it to be. You wanted people torn over it.
Mm-hmm.
Is Randy being ridiculous? Is he just overreacting? Is all that Hulk's demeanor and what he's doing, is it all innocent, or does he have? Come on, I think maybe he does have some eyes for Elizabeth here. So no, that's exactly what they wanted to happen, and they pulled it off brilliantly. As I said, that's little bit at a time, and Randy was, awesome in how he delivered that. It was never over the top. It was that subtlety of him reacting to it. And I'm sure, a normal man who's got a hot smoking wife or a girlfriend out there is going, yeah, that friend of mine, Bob, I've seen him hug my wife a little too long, and then we were at that party and she brought him a sandwich. Why'd she bring him a sandwich? She didn't bring me a sandwich. Yeah. You know what I mean? So that was just, and that's exactly what they wanted to do. And they were very aware of that. I'm sure Hulk knew just how long he should hold that, that hug, and not, but to the point where he's still, hands on the back. They're not low. You know what I mean? It's that just kind of a side hug in a way, or, how you do. But just enough to put that doubt in everybody's mind on both sides of this story, which I thought they executed it brilliantly. I thought it was just really well done. And I remember thinking that at the time, because if I'm thinking and I'm seeing how this is laying out, and I'm going, yeah, man, is Hulk really? I'm thinking storyline wise, and I just felt like, yeah, it's working. This is just, you can just see how people are reacting to it. And if you went out there in the crowd and asked them, you'd probably find half the people are saying, Randy's crazy. What did he do? Hulk doesn't want anything to do with Elizabeth. And the other people you're going to find out, they're like, yeah, I think Randy knows what he's talking about. I think the Hulkster has got, is trying to take his wife away from him. So it worked really well.
Well, especially because Hulk Hogan's like the number one guy in the company, and you're the world champion, but yet everyone looks at Hogan as still the number one guy, but you're the one holding the title, and now your wife is sitting there.
What else are you going to take from me?
Right.
The popularity,
It's insane. And Survivor Series 1988, someone's going to yell at me. Hogan didn't hug Liz at SummerSlam. It's Survivor Series 88 when they win the match. Hogan and Savage win. Hogan hugs Liz as Savage is beaten down, like pretty much in the corner, hurting, and he's kind of like, what the hell is going on here? Like, I'm hurt, you're hugging, what are we doing? Why?
And you're right. The events, we can sit there and we're gonna miss here that, but we're talking how this storyline worked and how it was brought along, and yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying, that the way they did this, and it wasn't you're going to do at the end, you're going to get this, and then you go over. It was well thought out. This is what you're going to do. And I remember, that's the way Vince was too. Vince was, when he was into whatever that storyline was, he was it. He would act that out for them and tell them exactly what you would say or how you're going to do this, and detailed down to the detail of reaction and what's going to happen from here. So we can keep the events straight of happening, but as far as the storyline went and how it was going to be built, the execution of it was flawless.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up Vince McMahon too, is because a lot of people bring up his misdeeds versus his wins, and this is one of the wins of a storyline. Well, people have been like, "Well, my favorite didn't win the world title," or "My favorite didn't get this," or did you not pay attention to all the times he did do things right? Maybe it wasn't your favorite, but this storyline, you have to be very dedicated to the storyline, because if you're building for an entire year and plus for this, and you have to have beat by beat, And you see SummerSlam's reaction of like, oh, people are, oh, Savage looks angry at Hogan for this. Okay, well, we could go like rocket fuel and go really fast and keep going, or we wait. We just keep let that sit there and then go to Survivor Series. So you got August to November, and then do another beat so you can have like a video package later on to show you like, hey, these guys were friends, but they also, there was something sitting here for a long, long time. And you know, the side eye, but we go into Royal Rumble 1989, and this is really like the I don't think we're going to be okay anymore. Like, I don't think the Mega Powers can stay together anymore because Hulk Hogan accidentally eliminates the Macho Man from the Royal Rumble. And that's when Savage comes in the ring and pie faces Hulk Hogan, pushes him, and they get face to face, and there's words back and forth. And that's when Miss Elizabeth has to step in. She's like, calm everyone down. Like, hey, with the Mega Powers, what are you guys doing? And Savage looks pissed, and he walks away. Now, the question is, was this truly an accident? Did Hogan accidentally knock out Savage, or was it on purpose? And that part of the storyline is intriguing to me because you're thinking, well, maybe it was by accident, or maybe he did it on purpose. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, and that's another part of the chapter here of how it all unfolded. I believe he was attempting to eliminate Bad News Brown during that match, and then knocks Randy out, and they did that really well. I mean, when you watched it happen, did you go, oh man, he just did that to Randy on purpose? No, but you could watch it from 20 different angles, and you'd be thinking, okay, it depended on what side of that fence you're on. Is Hulk up to no good, or is he the Hulkster who's just trying to do right by everybody? And yeah, stuff happens. So that was another thing that went well, but at the same time, you understood why Randy, with all these things starting to stack up, I think is the best way to put it. And you could understand, well, whether or not you were buying it or not, but at the same time, you could understand why Randy was feeling the way he was feeling.
Right. And this was the first time though, like this whole time we've been building to all this is the first time Savage put his hands on Hogan. As in like, dude, you pushed me out by accident, and I'm going to pie face you and go like, dude, what's going on here? Like, and now my wife's got to come in here and break us up. Like, dude, this is not right. And that's what I think I love about this is Randy's been holding his cool.
Well, and then also time. Yes. And then also remember this. Why does she have to be between them? You're my wife. You always have to have my back, whether I'm right or wrong. And she's in between them. Like, what do you really? So, and then here's another part of that drama. Do you fault Liz? Are you saying, yeah, well, whether or not you think that they're, this is Randy may even be in the wrong a little bit, but he's your husband. You got to back him. But no, she's stepping in between, and now you've got the split. So you could think, okay, she's just trying to keep the peace here. But then you're understanding, well, Randy feels the way he feels, and his wife isn't even standing by him.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true.
It's just getting more and more that the level of animosity is building, and Elizabeth is not helping things.
That's true too. I didn't even really think about that. Like, why are you on my side? Yeah. Right. He tossed me out. He's been lingering to you. Like, I wonder if there was like a pillow talk of Macho and Liz just laying there in bed one night, like, man, why did he hug you at Survivor Series? Like, what's that about? Then he pushed me out. It's like, oh, Randy, you're so worried about nothing. It's okay. It's like, well, maybe I should be.
Well, and Steve, I keep going back to this is the psychology of and the brilliance of professional wrestling and how stories are told is that you're always thinking about, okay, how all that really matters is the people that are watching, that are taking this in, how are they perceiving it? How are they processing it? And so as I just talked about, there's these two guys, they've got this animosity towards one another. Something happens. It may have been a complete accident, but this happens with a friend of his at a bar, and he calls the guy on it, and his wife is there with him, and she's going, "No, come on, guys, let's break this up here." And he didn't really mean it. What he's saying, you're like, "What do you mean you didn't? He didn't? Why aren't you over here to standing up for me?" So the point of it is that that's what they're thinking. There's people out there going, kind of looking over at their wife and like, what would she do? And so like the intrigue of it just was just building. And I said, out in that crowd, you had people on both sides of this, which meant it was working.
I think for years, people are still debating this as we talk about it right now, because people are like, well, Hogan, you could have easily been like, listen, I'm clearly causing a problem between you and your wife or you and your husband. And, my bad. I didn't mean to do that. I'm going to back away. I'm going to go hang out with Bruce the Barber Beefcake and just leave you alone. But this is like, you can see there's problems here, but you're still insisting on tag teaming with me, still insisting in being involved with me. But yet you clearly are seeing you're ruining my home life, but you don't care. And it gets worse, though. It gets 100% worse.
Really? This is it.
We go to February 1989, the main event. And this is where the Mega Powers officially explode, because it's on NBC. You have the Twin Towers. Before you move on, what a name! Because you in today's world, after 9/11, there are no more Twin Towers. But at the Twin Towers in 1988, 89, you have the Big Boss Man, who is quite a large man at that point, and Akeem, who used to be the one-man gang about 8 months ago. Now they're here fighting the Mega Powers. It's just a crazy name in general. We'll have to talk about Akeem and One Man Gang swapping places one day. But the key moment in this match is when Macho Man is tossed out to the outside, and he doesn't sort of land on Liz. He crushes her skull with his butt, his ass, his whole body lands on her head. Let's pause before we move it any further. That's one of those spots still to this day. I'm like, how'd they do this? And how is she okay? Like, what was you must have been involved and heard some whispers about this before it happened. Like, what were your thoughts and what was Randy's thoughts about, hey, we're going to have Liz out there, but she's also going to be crushed by you?
Yeah, but if it wasn't as bad as you described it.
I don't know.
But it was a hell of a bump. There's no question about it. And you also have to remember, Liz didn't work. I mean, she wasn't a worker. She was not used to going. She wasn't like Sensational Sherry, who could go in there, and if you didn't lay it in, she was going to kick your ass. So she was not used to doing this, and that was a high risk maneuver. And when he came out of that ring and landed on her, it was a hell of a bump. I will give it that. But at the same time, they pulled that off really well. And so when Hulk, has to react, or he does react to it, this is where, I have to tell you, this is where Hulk lost me that night. Yeah. That's when, if being a complete, like a fan viewpoint, that was the night that I turned, that I was like, okay, if I'm thinking about this way, Hulk does not have the best intentions. He leaves one of his partners in the ring. I mean, understandably, Elizabeth is hurt. She needs help. And usually we see the folks on the back run out, and we've got medical personnel, and that's not happening. And so you've got this fine line of like, okay, do they just say they paused the match? Was that what Randy should have done? And Hulk, and Randy should have been the one who picked his wife up and took her backstage. Okay, yeah. But at the same time, the competitor he is, and thinking, well, I can't do anything about it now, and they're going to bring personnel out here to help her, or that could be argued. But the fact that Hulk goes and leaves Randy, and then not only takes her to the back and gets her into the medical triage area, then he stays there for quite a bit of time, and Randy's getting the crap kicked out of him, and probably couldn't have gone backstage if he wanted to, because those guys were manhandling him. So he hadn't. I'll say at this point, he hadn't lost me yet. But when everything went, when they got back, when Randy came back, and all hell broke loose, that's when I was like, okay, I don't think Hulk has the best intentions here. I really, and I'm interested to see what you thought. And I think a lot of people felt the same way. So that it really did blow up. And when we did get to the finale, which we will here at this, I think that it was pretty split as far as who wanted the winner in the ring to be.
Yeah, I love that you're like, yep. I didn't see both sides anymore. I only saw Savage's side. Yeah, because the Savage lands on Liz. You know,
it was a hell right. It was a hell of a bump.
Hurt.
Right. And so what was your feeling though? Did you think Randy should have just gone and seen how, or was he just too locked in? That Randy was that competitor and you got these bad guys in the ring that are trying to hurt them.
I think a little bit of both, because
or he's getting revenge for what they did that made him hit his wife.
That too. Yeah. Because when Hogan goes to pick up Liz and brings her backstage, Savage is even looking on, being like, "What are you doing? Like, what's going on? Like, where are you going?" And then the Twin Towers beat the crap out of Savage.
Yeah. And then look at it this way, also, Steve. Let's just let's put it back into the real world sense.
All right.
And if you're in a bar fight, and let's say you're there with your wife, and some guy grabs you and shoves you back, and you slam into your wife, and she hits the wall and crumples down. What are you going to do at that point? Are you going to go, oh my God, I got to tend to my poor wife here? Or are you going to go and get even with that guy who just did that?
Well, if my best friend who was also there picked up my wife and ran out the door of the bar and left me there, and now I have to figure out what's next. You're like, Jesus, there's a lot of circumstances here, because at the same time, you're like, well, I should go check out my wife. But you do want revenge on these men. But it didn't seem like the revenge was part of Savage's. He kind of gets like pulled back in the ring. Like he's like, "What's going on? What are we doing? Yeah. Are we staying here?" And then they just beat him up.
Right. So, I mean, it didn't make it look like he was so callous. It wasn't like he's just like, "Oh, okay, she's hurt." Right. I mean, he gets pulled in, he gets back into the action, and then he's like, "You son of a bitches,"
It's like 450-pound, both men squashing him in the corner, doing double squashes too. They have him in the corner. Big Bossman's laying there as Akeem runs and smushes Bossman into Savage. But you're right, Hogan's backstage there. So the question,
for how long?
To answer your question though, is I would probably go check on my wife. I'd be like, my wife's hurt. Yes, I do want revenge. But what's more important here is the health of my wife, because there could be a lot worse consequences here for my wife than me getting revenge on two dudes that hurt her, because we can do that later. I need to make sure that she's actually going to live through this.
All right. And then let's say Hogan, this whole thing plays out. He feels like nobody's coming out here. She really is hurt. We got to get her help. He runs back to the triage room. And there's medical personnel there to help him. He's like, "Here, take care. I got to get back to help Randy." That's what I was thinking. I'm like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Crying, Liz, oh Liz," and I'm like, "You got to get back out there and help Randy." All so right. That's why, like I said, that's where it turned for me. I'm like, man, dude, really? He's out there getting the crap kicked out of him. There's people helping her. Get your ass back out there and help him.
I like how you bring that up too, because imagine like your wife's getting like open heart surgery. What do you need to be in the room too to be like, "Doctor, she needs help"? Like, dude, are you gonna put the IV in her arm, Hogan?
Right.
Are you gonna, put
when you know damn well, and when you know damn well what's going on out in that arena? What are you doing?
It's not like you're fighting two small guys. You're fighting the Twin Towers. Their names are Twin Towers. They're big, giant men squishing him.
1,000 pounds of human mass out there beating you up.
Yeah. It's like, what are you doing here? But when Savage finally escapes that ring and goes backstage, this is one of the top 5 moments in the WWF's history, because this is when it all comes together, where Savage finally is like, "You have lust in your eyes. You want the championship. You want my girl. This is bullshit. And Hogan's like, what are you talking about? Like, well, I don't know where this is coming from. It's like, what do you mean you don't know where this is coming from? You've been a dick for a year to me. I've let it slide because my wife thinks you're cool. And now we're in this situation where I got my ass handed to me. My wife's hurt. And you're sitting back here praying to God. Like, dude, get a set of balls and help me out here. So I'm on Savage's side when all this comes together, because when Savage attacks Hogan and just beats him down inside. But first off, even Miss Elizabeth is like, go help Randy when she kind of comes to. Go help Randy. Oh, I should go help Randy? Yeah, dude, you got a brain cell in your head? Like, go help your buddy. You're not going to put the IV in her arm.
And this like we've been talking about, that's when I turned and I was thinking, okay, is everybody else turned and is this isn't good for Hulk. This is not, that people, I think there are a lot of people going like, no, that was a dick move. I mean, really. And now I'm thinking maybe you do have, aspirations for something to happen with Elizabeth and he's supposed to be the Hulkster. That does all right, all American. Everything is, great. And I think you had a lot of people who, regardless, I mean, because think about when Randy goes back there and he, pops Hogan with the belt. I mean, that was one of the greatest backstage scenes ever. And then if you remember, Elizabeth gets up and gets in between, and he hurls her across the room like OMG. Do you remember that? Like where he throws
he
her,
whips her with one arm.
See her,
he
and you're
like
thinking,
this, throws her.
I remember thinking like, is she okay? I mean, God, she just took that bump at the side of the ring, and then he just tossed her across the, and besides all that, after all that happening, and after what Randy, just totally lost it, white rage. I still think there are a lot of people going, you know what? I get it. I understand why he blew, the
pressure.
Yeah. We talk about this all the time, how stuff you couldn't get away with this stuff today.
No,
but back then, it got by. It somehow, it wasn't, the people weren't outraged by it. They in a sense understood what Randy was doing. But I remember thinking that like, oh my God, that was like too far. I think people are going to, say, what the hell? But I think that, again, you had a lot of people split. And then when we got to when they exploded, that, you had as many people wanting Randy to win as you did as you did Hulk. The Hulkamaniacs were strong, but I think that Randy had a lot of support for what was going on then.
Well, he also had a lot of points. Were you just hanging out with me to eventually get a world title shot? Were you hanging out with me just to get, with my girl? Yeah. You have lust in your eyes for the championship and for my girl.
You want to take everything away from me.
Yeah, you helped me get everything. You helped me get the championship a year ago. Now you're jealous of me? Like, you want to be the champion again, and you're going to throw away our friendship and throw away everything because of this? And so when he slaps him and then he hits him with the championship and he hurls Miss Elizabeth across the room, it's quite a moment. It's quite a scene, and it's live too. If you don't remember, this was live. So they couldn't redo any of this. They couldn't be like, oh, we're going to just throw you down the hallway. We're going to do this to you, because there's a moment. You don't see it on Peacock, obviously, or where you're watching this, but there's a moment when they're counting in Hulk Hogan come back from a commercial break. He's supposed to be by Miss Elizabeth, like, oh, he's just sitting there, like, and you hear 5 on live on TV. You have 5, 4, 3,
back
2,
into character,
1, back, and then he looks at the camera and he's like, oh, it's out there somewhere if you want to check it out, but it's all live.
But also, what else is a great scene too is that and the WWE really took advantage, and we saw more and more of this. But the camera moving down the arena hallway, and Hulk, throwing guys out of the way, and the boxes and stuff like that, and really bringing you into that backstage scene. It wasn't like you'd see when a boxer coming out and they might have that camera and he's just coming out doing bobbing and weaving and he's coming. No, this we're being brought right into what was happening backstage. And
You're right. You didn't say it often at all. He was screaming, Randy, where are you, Randy?
Yeah, and WWE doesn't get a lot of credit for some of the things that they established that you saw, in the future after that and beyond. That a lot of that stuff that they came up with, and it sucked you in more to be right there while it's happening. So honestly,
blue lockers, right? You were in front of those blue lockers all the time.
And the fake phone that they had back there. That Bobby Heenan had a lot of fun with that, but that's another story. Being the backstage and seeing all this stuff happen was another big part of the story. And I have to tell you, that was one of my favorite episodes of all time. I enjoyed that more than the WrestleMania V match. Honestly, I thought the way that all culminated and the blow, that finally, and wherever you were on that, it just blew up. And as I said with Randy, that white rage just, and it all came together all at once for him. I knew it. And so, God, the way that whole thing played out, and Elizabeth taking that bump, and Hulk leaving Randy, and Randy having to go out there and fend for himself, and then that stuff backstage, and Hulk lingering, like, why you get out there and help him? And he comes out, and then Randy's like, F you, and slaps him when he tries to tag in. That really was one of my favorite episodes of storytelling ever in the WWE. Really was.
Well, you're right, though. Exposing the backstage area, which you never ever saw, really gave you a glimpse into, I don't think this is a storyline. I think there's something here. I think there's something going on here. And the fact that you have WrestleMania 5 in the Trump Plaza a year before in the Trump Plaza, it's really poetic to see that we're not just, we got together at the same arena, and now we're going to fight each other in the same arena. Like, to me, that's pretty, it's nice, a little cherry on top to this whole storyline, because we've had so many good beats, but the location of our foundation of the beginning and the exploding in the same spot, like that's pretty awesome to think about. And when you think about Hulk Hogan matches, there's a few that people actually go, man, that's a great match. Not just, oh, that was entertaining. This WrestleMania 5 match is beautiful. And Macho Man is one of the best wrestlers in the world compared to now, then, forever, together. But he is one of the best because of what he did here with Hulk Hogan and pulled off one of the best matches, I think, of Savage's career and Hogan's career. What are your thoughts on seeing this?
No, absolutely. I think you're when you're talking, as a match, absolutely. As I mentioned before, with that whole scenario, with how that played out to get them there, storytelling, that was awesome. But you're right, and this was a classic example of where you had two of the best in the business meeting in the ring and delivering, and I think, and I will also say, I think Randy raised Hulk Hogan's level, because most matches you always saw Terry in before then. He didn't have to work that hard necessarily. He would do. We got used to seeing the moves that he had. This one was a great dance. I thought that both of them were great, and I think Randy raised Terry's level, and I think also just the fact that he was in the ring with Hulk Hogan raised Randy's as well for this. So they definitely they delivered. There's no question about that match.
Yeah, and though Miss Elizabeth in this whole thing doesn't choose to be in either man's corner.
Yep.
We're talking earlier about it. So you're not going to be in your husband's corner. You're going to be in no one's corner.
Well, and then he's got a heel in Sensational Sherry, who's full of dirty tricks. So crazy. It's a crazy match.
But it's like Miss Elizabeth is clearly, she's supposed to be with Macho Man. A lot of shit has happened in all this, but never did he intentionally do something. Yeah, his rage when he threw her, sure, that was an accident. That was an act of rage. He didn't actually strike her on purpose. It was more like, get out of the way, I'm trying to get to this guy. I'm blinded by hate and rage right now. I'm not like punching you in the face on purpose. Though that to me is one of those things where like, Miss Elizabeth, why aren't you in someone's corner here? You know, Hogan does win the match. He hits the leg drop. He wins the championship back. Everyone is cheering. Everyone's happy. Though, again, Elizabeth looking concerned, but doesn't seem to help Randy at all. My question for you in all this, why after WrestleMania 5 does Miss Elizabeth disappear from television? She's no longer involved with Macho Man because he eventually turns heel. He is heel technically with Sensational Sherry. Hogan goes off. He doesn't even need a manager. He's by himself. Elizabeth really doesn't show up until random moments here and there. WrestleMania 7 is when she reunites with the Macho Man.
Yeah.
But why? Do you know why she was just suddenly removed from television?
I don't know the absolute reason. I can speculate back then that I think that a lot of it, she just needed a break, that she wanted to, step away. You have to imagine what life must have been like on the road. Back in those days, you were on the road for, well into the 200 days a year, and 365, and you're talking, you're working, and you are working every day. It's not like you've got, days to go home and have a good time, go on vacation or something like that. These guys were just running ragged, and you're living out of a suitcase. You're not staying in the greatest, nicest hotels. You're renting cars and driving between cities. I mean, it was a brutal life. And, they had done very well financially. She made money too, being in there. It wasn't just Randy. And so I really think, at the time, there were rumblings about their relationship. I think maybe she wanted to work on that and, see what it would be like to have somewhat of a normal life. But I really think overall, she just wanted a break. She just wanted to get away for a while and see what was going to happen from that point.
Because like a rumor came out during that time as well, was to make Macho Man a true heel, he got divorced from Miss Elizabeth to create the aura of, oh, we actually are separated. We're not together anymore. I'm a bad guy. But also, situations in relationships, that's a good cover up for we actually are getting divorced and we're not going to be together anymore because I've been on the road together for 300 plus days a year and we're stressed out and we no longer can handle this any longer. Do you believe that they use that as like, oh, it's a storyline, I'm getting divorced because for real, I want to become a bad guy for real. I want people to think I'm a really bad guy.
Yeah. You're not going to do that for the business.
Right.
That was on the real personal side of what was happening with them. And, it's ironic that they weren't married all that time. I mean, they were married all that time and they never made that really public. And then when they are basically splitting apart, that's when they have the marriage thing. It's like they have the married. Right. So no, there's that wouldn't have been, Randy wouldn't have crossed over to do that just to say, we're going to do this in real life so that I can really be a heel. No, I don't believe that for a second.
Yeah. I thought that was one of those situations. I'm like, because like what wrestling fan is going to the court to confirm that Macho Man and Elizabeth are no longer together? Like I know like Jake the Snake would wear his contact in his eye, pretending he was blind, and go to the grocery store, he would tell me, but yet like, I don't think any wrestling fans like, I need to go to the court and figure out if they're actually not together anymore for real. Like that to me is one of those crazy things. But one of the best storylines in the wrestling business forever is the Mega Powers exploding. Macho Man versus Hulk Hogan is one of the greatest of all time. And there has been debates over the years of some fans viewed Hulk Hogan's behavior as selfish, a little deceiving. But did Hogan not respect Elizabeth and Macho Man's boundaries is one of those big topics as well, because it certainly seems like you see cracks in a relationship, but yet you keep sticking around, making the cracks bigger and bigger until they actually break, and you benefit from the breaking. So it depends. You're telling me that you eventually landed on Macho Man's side.
Yes, I would have to say that. And of course, I'm a little biased by it, but and I know there's been speculation and over the years of exactly what went on behind the scenes with that relationship between Randy and Liz. And I honestly don't really know. I wasn't privy to what was going on personally with them. I know that that Hulk has talked about it occasionally about when things were really bad and that, but I never was there to witness part of that. I don't know how it eventually ended. It was sad though to me. I really, as I said at the top of this, that I really believe that Elizabeth was Randy's love of his life, and everybody knows and things happen, but it's terrible the way that happened, way it ended up. It was, Steve, absolutely one of the greatest storylines that the WWE ever had and pulled off. I thought it was done brilliantly. I do want to say something about Elizabeth. I know recently that Lex Luger has mentioned that he thinks that she should be in the Hall of Fame, and I want to absolutely second that. I've spoken many times about Sensational Sherry. I worked with her a lot, and I thought that she is owed a lot of credit for how far women have advanced in professional wrestling, because Sherry was one of those people that crossed over. And she could stand toe to toe with those guys. And as I said, when she would say something, if she was going to take a clothesline or whatever it was, she'd tell them, you lay that in, because if you don't, you're going to make me look bad, like I'm a woman who can't take it. And if you don't, I will make you pay for it. You're going to get a receipt you'll remember. On the other side, like with Elizabeth, she also changed the entire perception of how women were seen in professional wrestling. She changed that. She wasn't like somebody, as I said, who was a worker who went into the ring and took bumps like that. But she changed a lot of how women were looked at. From Moolah and all those others. And, after Elizabeth, you saw a lot of very attractive women who would be on the arm of wrestlers coming to ringside. But, Elizabeth was, everybody loved her. The character that what was presented was pretty much who Elizabeth was. The innocent who kind of was taking it all in, trying to make everything work for people, and she was like that in real life in many ways. And she changed a lot of things in professional wrestling, as I said. And I absolutely believe that she deserves to be in the WWE Hall of Fame, and I hope that in the future that they will honor her.
Agree. The first lady of the WWF,
she really was.
First lady of the World Wrestling Federation, 100% deserves it, because without her, the storyline does not exist. No. It would just be two dudes fighting over a championship, and a friendship fell apart. This was not about championships in the beginning. This was about jealousy, lust, real life meeting, storyline. Did it affect Macho Man and Elizabeth's real life relationship using that in a storyline? I don't know, but it certainly feels like, from the outside looking in, when you believe your storyline, it might come true in real life.
Yeah, and everybody loved Elizabeth. Do you ever remember anybody saying, "Oh, I can't believe that woman"? No, everybody loved her. So I hope it happens.
Same. And we have talked about WrestleMania 5, WrestleMania 6, WrestleMania 7, WrestleMania 8 so far in our journey here on this podcast. And this was one of those storylines that I knew. I was like, I need to talk about this with Sean Mooney, because he knows the ins and outs of this. Before we wrap this up, though, I do want to ask you one more question, though. After this storyline, did you ever have a conversation, say with Hogan or Savage, about this? Because their personal relationship might have shattered over the years, but did you ever speak to one of them about this storyline, being like, well, how important it was to either man or as the WWF in general?
Yeah. I mean, Randy, I talked to him about it, and he felt that it was one of the greatest runs the greatest stories that he was ever involved in, and how could he not? It really was, beautifully executed, and I think he felt the same way about that. And appreciated the fact that they had the chance to tell that story. That you don't see that anymore, and I don't know very few. I'm sure there are, where even especially back then, where we were able to tell the story. But man, this one had so many elements to it. It had their relationship, and then the animosity between Hulk and Randy, and all these different great venues and broadcasts to be able to bring in the entire country in on this story. So yeah, I think that it was definitely one of his favorite runs he ever had. And I think in the end that he also realized that who else could have done that with him? What other superstar could have done this? Could have pulled it off?
Yeah, it's like when bands break up. They each say like, "Well, I was the leader." Without all three members of the storyline, Hogan, Liz, and Macho Man, you never would have gotten the perfection that came out of it. And I got to say, it's one of the great honors to always talk to you, Sean Mooney, about these amazing things in the golden era of the WWF. That's right. Put the F back in, as always. I dressed nice for you today.
Yeah.
I hope you enjoyed our conversation today. And just like last week, Ric Flair and Hogan WrestleMania 8, people had a lot of thoughts and a lot of opinions. So I'm looking forward to hearing your comments, your questions, and your concerns. And by the way, if you want to check out Sean Mooney, his YouTube channel is now back and active. Yes. That's right. Primetime Sean Mooney. It's there. We'll be dropping clips from his past interviews with Gene Okerlund, Todd Pettengill, Sergeant Slaughter, Bret the Hitman Hart, and so many more A-listers will be there on your channel. And of course, you can check this podcast out right here on 10 Count Media. I'm C-Fall. He's Sean Mooney. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.